the overall budget. Most of these grants are offsetting the cost of some of our salaries. I am not good with this.
You want me to do it?
Will you do it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Next slide. So every year, faculty and staff, and my office included, look for competitive grants. This year, we applied for $792,000 for competitive grants. Currently, we've had about $3,500 of that funded. $96,000 was not awarded. That means we didn't receive those grants, and one of them was a big grant to install a lift in the original high school to get to the Rascavage Auditorium. And then right now, we are still waiting on word for a series of other grants for suicide prevention programs, nutrition programs, school security, and farm to school. So, our budget context, we want to talk about that. For the most part, our enrollment has been very stable, and if you look back over the last few years, the number hovers around 1,000, it dips below and then goes back up. We have a focus on security and safety. Certainly social emotional learning. We are implementing several programs this year, including Ruler, restorative practice, tools of the mind. We're working on 21st century skills that are going to be essential for our students to master so that they can get work and have good, solid careers upon graduation. We'll be doing more with that when we put the portrait of a graduate together. We certainly need, and our chairman talked about meeting the diverse needs of all of our learners. We certainly have to develop programs and add resources to make sure that that happens. Improving our technology, and then of course our contractual obligations. So those are basically the highlights in this budget. So I want to bring your attention to the staffing changes that are here. We needed to take a look at our overall staffing, and then we want to make some program changes, but we want to be cognizant of the fact that it doesn't have an impact on the budget. So what we did was we did a complete analysis of the staff in district, made some decisions about changing those positions and having those positions reallocated so that we could add new programming. And so we reduced some positions, but the focus really is at the middle school. Last year we spent a lot of time and effort upgrading the facility at the middle school. So now we are really hyper-focused on developing good programming for the middle school. So a reduction in some teachers, one science teacher at the high school, we are going to replace that with a guidance counselor at the middle school. There's, due to enrollment shifts, at Mary Fisher, we're able to reduce one classroom teacher, but at the middle school, add a library media specialist. Right now, we have a library clerk. And if you know anything about secondary education, for sure, a good librarian is a backbone of the school. We're going to reduce an ELA teacher. We have 2 ELA teachers at grade 7 and at grade 8. We're going to reduce one in each grade level, and that will allow us to have a tech ed teacher. We have a lovely shop with an adjoining computer room, and it hasn't been staffed in over a year. We want to replace that position because really we want to develop some STEM programs for our middle school students. And then one of the ELA teachers our goal is to have some permanent substitutes in district so that when a teacher is absent, we don't keep having a shifting of different staff members. Having permanent subs in place will allow for there to be consistency in the classroom. Substitutes will know the students, they'll know the teacher's curriculum, and there won't be a bump in the road if a teacher happens to be out. A library media clerk reduction will also help offset a cost of another permanent sub. So what we would like to do is have 2 permanent subs at Thompson Middle School and 2 at Mary Fisher. Next slide. So some of the improvement changes. Curriculum. At our high school, we are on a 3-year phase-in plan, and Principal Baker and Principal Pullen have been working with the faculty and staff to phase in additional AP classes. We started off with 2 AP classes here, and this past year, I believe, where's Zion? We added 3 this year. 3. And we're on a goal to have at least 12 AP courses implemented at the high school, and also students will also have the option of taking any advanced placement class through a virtual learning platform called Virtual High School. So really expanding on the opportunity for our students to take competitive, rigorous courses. At Mary Fisher, last year we had some grant funding, and we were able to implement the Tools of the Mind program with our preschool program, our preschool students. We're now going to put that same program that's been so successful in our kindergarten. And I know Mrs. Beltram has been working with her staff on making that happen. Really, that is a social emotional learning program, but it has an academic core, and you should see the writing just starting now, where some of the kindergarten teachers are implementing those strategies. They are doing some amazing work in kindergarten. You would be blown away by the math and the writing that's coming out of those kindergarten classrooms. And then 2nd grade needs some curriculum materials. So that's basically under the curriculum umbrella. Some equipment replacement. If you've been at the high school media center, you will know, sitting on those chairs, that it's time for those chairs to be replaced. And so although Principal Baker did ask for a complete refurb of the library, we thought we'd take it in phases and first address the chairs that really do need to be replaced. Our science tables at the middle school need to be replaced. They're old, many of the stools broken, and the tables are wobbly, so we do need to replace those. And then we're starting to look at reducing the desks with the flat over for the middle school classrooms, because the Chromebook and the textbook all don't fit there. So we need to shift from having that type of seating to more group seating and tables rather than those individual desks. So we're going to take that in phases. Actually, this year, a company gave us a free model classroom. So one lucky teacher will get a free classroom full of furniture, and that will be the model. And then every year, we're hoping to replace 2 classrooms of furniture until we kind of go through the district. And then, of course, technology upgrade. We have a very old student information system, and our student information system is really the entire backbone of the school department. It holds all of the data that goes up to the state for our state aid, all our grades, our teachers' plans, and any other kind of data, and our communication system as well. Right now, the company that we're working with has a very old system. Every time we try to put an upgrade into that system, it costs us more money. So we are making a shift over to a Tyler product. Putnam Public Schools uses that same information system. And it's really critical to making sure that the data that goes up to the state is accurate and it's housed appropriately. And then, of course, there's just basic technology hardware replacement, and that's that Chromebook replacement every year for those that are broken and for grade levels that we want to increase. And so this is our budget dashboard. Our overall increase is $18,967,000, which shows a 2.4% increase over last year. And then we break it down by object code. The big blue section, as you can see, is primarily our staffing, and that's 71% of our budget is for faculty and staff. So it's a big chunk of our budget, and then, you know, benefits are another big section, and of course, special education. And so if you look at this pie chart, the big blue circle identifies all of our fixed costs, and that small little orange slice is really our equipment and supplies that can vary from year to year. But as you can see, most of our costs are set and fixed. And then total staffing costs by department, we broke it down by school. So you can see it's almost even. Mary Fisher with a little bit more staffing because there were more students there. And then taking a look at our special education section. And you can see that technology ends up being a very small section. Plant and operations is probably our next biggest expense. And then we look at our budget over time. This year, our ask is 2.4%, but our 5-year trend has been at 1.44%. And then, just to remind everyone of the financial support, the town of Thompson, from your local tax dollars, pay for about $10 million of the total budget. The rest of that money comes from our state aid. We get a little bit in Medicaid reimbursement, and then there's also excess special education costs that are applied to the budget. And now we break down each budget by department. So we look at Turlock Memorial High School. We see that there's a 12.77% increase in that, a 3.33% increase in that budget. That's primarily for the additional AP courses that I spoke about, and then of course those media chair replacements. At the middle school, we see a 3.45% increase, and that's a lot to do with program development, our new science equipment, the furniture replacements, and additional workbooks that are going to support the curriculum. And then at Mary Fisher, we had last year, we had a big curriculum expenditure because we were bumping up a grade and we had to address a whole reading program. We don't need that this year, so I don't want you to think that the negative number, the negative 8.54%, means that we're taking away anything from Mary Fisher. It's just that we don't need that expense this year. So it's basically the highlights out of Mary Fisher are the grade 2 workbooks and the Tools of the Mind program that Principal Beltram and her staff want to implement in kindergarten.
Part of it too is grant allocation.
Oh, okay, and then the grant allocation for, what grant was that by?
The Title I wasn't allocated correctly or to the right personnel, so it's now aligned the way that it's supposed to be, so it's the same amount of, it's virtually the same amount of staff, but the amount that comes out of the general budget is a lot less, so because the Title I and this IDEA 611 grants are fairly large, and we use the majority of those grants to pay staffing, which is used as an offset to what we would need to have in the general budget. So that's why you see that's a big portion of that reduction right there.
Thank you. So the next slide is special education, and some of the highlights there are basically we needed to correctly categorize our health insurance. In the past, the health insurance hadn't been charged to for special education personnel, hadn't been charged to the special education budget. So Bob went through the budget and he shifted those costs so that if we want to know exactly what special education costs us in the town of Thompson, it has to include all of the benefits as well. So he made that shift. This year's actual costs are reflected in additional paraprofessionals that we needed to hire to support some of our students who needed that additional support. We have currently 16 students in a outplaced facility or an outplaced school, and then of course transportation to those schools. And we did have to add personnel this year, staff this year, to meet the needs of the students that we have in district who need additional supports beyond the gen ed curriculum. And so when we look at overall special education tuition and transportation, just that alone is 18.99% increase. As you know, and I've been pretty clear over the course of this year, that we continue to be overspent in special education, and we need to provide those services for our students so that they are adequately supported and can access the gen ed curriculum. And so we did exceed our budget that we placed last year, and we are trying to anticipate those increases in this budget. And then we take a look at excess special education cost grant. And any student in the district who exceeds the expenditure of $80,000, the state will reimburse us 75% of any money spent over that $81,000. And so over the course of many years, the town has received reimbursement for those expenses that are paid by the Board of Education. Those funds have not been credited to the Board of Education budget, and that request has been submitted to the town because it needs to offset those expenses that we're currently over. And then, of course, we just highlight health services overall. We have 3.5 nurses that cover our 3 schools, and not to forget that we also provide nursing services to St. Joe's. And then district-wide, our district-wide expenses, we did add, and I know our chairman Witkowski talked about adding a security coordinator. We have been looking at the Woodstock Academy model. The Board of Ed members met at length with the security team from Woodstock Academy and the headmaster, Chris Sanford. We believe that adding a daytime security coordinator will also complement the work that Ken Beausoleil has been doing with developing an evening security program. So we have added that to the budget. That is the one position that is extra in the budget. And then, of course, the big thing is transferring of the benefits cost to special education. And then district-wide transportation. And I want to highlight that our contract with DADCO, when they did a projection for our contract for transportation, that is our budget for transportation. However, this year, we ended up having to use more additional buses. So we had more students going to different schools for outplacement, which required extra special education transportation. We had additional summer expenses. Our busing for summer went over budget last summer. We had many more students participating in the program, and so we had to add additional buses. So the increase is based on usage. And we have increased our usage this year, so I want to be really clear about that. It's not that that DADCO went up, it's that we bought more bus time from them. And then, of course, some of the things, our contract included the regular transportation, our midday run, field trips, athletics, and special education. However, we also had to add additional buses for special education and our summer school usage. And so our 2019 actual bus transportation usage was actually 3.25% higher than what was budgeted in the original contract. And so we see that for 2020, we project that our increase in transportation will be 7.49%. And then just taking a look at fuel costs, overall the 2020 budget is based on the 2019 actual costs for fuel. So we're going to see a 31.5% increase in fuel. And then health insurance, just taking a look at our total cost of health insurance, what our employee co-pays are, what the Board of Ed co-pays are, and then our HSA contribution. And then we do have a broker that works with us to help us set our health care programs. So the total cost is $2.5 million to the Board of Ed. And then capital funds, our increase is about 5.73%. We're using a capital fund line for the first time in many years, And we're basically trying to continue our painting cycle, our ceiling tile replacement, the grid painting, and the work that we started in the middle school last year, but to continue that work on a regular basis and on a regular cycle. Mr. Birch tells me that last year or the year before was the first time that they really started to get into the classrooms and paint inside the classrooms. So each school gets 2 or 3 classrooms painted each year until we get through the whole building, and I imagine by then we'll circle back and do it again. But that overall is what's in plant and operations this year. And then technology, I talked about the student information system. That's really important. That new SIS system is up $35,000 for year 1, and then those costs drop because there's a lot of implementation and training in year 1, and then in year 2 it drops down to $18,000, which is a little bit less than we're currently paying for our Redica system. And every time we do an upgrade in Redica, it's costing us between $2,000 and $4,000 just for every little module they do. The new system aligns, it's the same company that our financial system is based on, Munis. It's a Tyler product. And we had a full team research all the SIS systems that were out there. And we had presentations, and many of them were between $80,000 and $125,000. Tyler came in, it was our favorite, and it just so happened to be the least expensive. And we have a team currently working on the conversion as we speak. And then in professional development, we did take all of the professional development budget lines that were in each of the buildings and even at central office, and we combined it under Ian Poolin's curriculum budget. That way he can monitor the professional development, he can evaluate that professional development, and keep a real eye on the spending for a PD. We also have a curriculum revision plan for 2020 that comes out of the curriculum budget, so you do see a significant increase there of 95.07% increase, but that's because we took all of the professional development out of the individual budgets and put it in the curriculum budget. We didn't increase professional development, we just put it in one place. So I don't want anyone to think, oh my goodness, they've asked for a 95% increase in PD. It's just that it's landing in the curriculum budget. And then we are going to have some work around the tools of the mind, continue our boat building program, which is really nice if we have the tech educator at the middle school, which I hope that we are able to maintain. Then that tech educator will be able to do some of those boat building activities during the day. And then also at the high school next year, we do have marine technology as a semester course. So we're branching out from our after school program into our career pathways. And then of course the AP classrooms, classes for the high school. And then high school and middle school athletics, there is a change of 2.8%. A lot of that has to do with the transportation increases. And then we look at the pie chart by department, and you can see that, district-wide, that includes all of our benefits, but our biggest slice of the pie there is our special services for students with disabilities. And then another look at the percentage budget by department. And I like this slide because you can really see where the dollars are going across the board in the district. And you can see that when you look at the 3 schools, they're almost even. And so we have created an email address for anyone in the community who has questions about our budget. They can email us, and Mr. Gentes or myself will answer questions at any time. This is being videotaped, so we will be adding this to our website. So anyone that can't be here tonight, you can certainly refer back, and our budget is posted on our website. The next section in our presentation, that I'm not going to go over every single slide here, but Mr. Gentes also put in a lot of good background information, what the object codes are in our budget in case someone wants to toggle back and forth, some interesting facts about our budget and our expenditures. We also have, what's next, Bob? How many students that are attending public schools, how many Thompson students are in private schools, what our free and reduced lunch percentage was last year. We are climbing up to 50% poverty in our district, and one of the reasons that we were able to actually offer the free breakfast program district-wide. So that's some interesting information. Next, Bob has other additional facts, the median income. Next slide. Contractual costs, what does it cost us for fuel, utilities, copiers, health insurance, so that's good information for someone who's looking at our budget. And then contractual cost increases 2020 and what percentage things went up, our workman's comp, our property and liability. We know that the QMC tuition is going up. And then of course just basic labor contract increases. And our graduation rates, our staffing levels, our comparison of towns, where does Thompson stack up there? And then total population projections. And then Thompson school age population over time to 2040. And another way to take a look at that. And then mill rates in Wyndham County for everyone to take a look at. And that's our presentation. But in the end, I want to thank everyone for supporting Thompson Public Schools. And as Thompson's moving forward to make improvements in the town, and just always remember that in a thriving community rests on the foundation of solid, high-quality public school education. Thank you.
I think in the past, it's not written in the budget, but I think in the past, we've accepted, have we, questions from the audience? If anyone has any questions? Have we done that in the past? Are there any questions for the chairman of the Board of Education or for the superintendent? Any questions? Okay. Hearing none. We'll move on to the next portion of this agenda, which is Ken Beausoleil, First Selectman, and he will present the general budget, local capital improvement projects, and capital improvement plans. Do you prefer to hold or do you want to fix?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. To everybody in the audience, the Board of Finance for holding this, so that way we can present our budget this evening and let you know where we are and what our needs are coming into the next fiscal year. Just to give you a little quick background, as you are aware, the town, based on the quality of the school, the people moving in, the main thing here is our infrastructure and the services that we provide in town. If anybody comes into the town hall, they use a variety of the services. We keep those as streamlined as we can and try and be as available as possible, as many hours of the day, and stretch it out as far as we can. The rest of the town, some of our biggest challenges is economic development, the infrastructure that we have in front of us, and that takes a lot of having a good, well-equipped Department of Public Works, a good crew that can go out and do the work, and an awful lot of volunteers, many of you that are in the audience, that serve on our various boards and commissions, such as P&Z, Economic Development, Inlands, Wetlands, and you all play a very critical part in making the town what it is today. We are at a stage now that our population has been running pretty stagnant and even, same thing with the population in the school. And part of that is what the town has to offer, and that has a lot to do with the infrastructure. The downtown center of town that we have been working to revitalize, because this was a major corridor for our industry along the French River. And some of our landmarks here, the River Mill, the mill store, the Belding Mill that has since been torn down. These are all key areas in town that, with the volunteers that we have, the grants that we have been getting, is going to revitalize this area in order to make it prosper and have people come to our town. So with that, we have proposed a budget that is bringing all of these elements with the volunteers, a good vision of bringing the town forward. So the current Board of Selectmen has worked very diligently to put a solid budget up forward with our needs, and we will go over those this evening. Okay, the first part of to work with the budget is our tax revenue and our grand list. As you can see, what has happened for the real estate from 19 to 20, with the new construction and home improvement, we have picked up an additional $5,304,360 worth of taxable on real estate. Motor vehicle, 1920, an additional $1,757,000. Personal property, $1,006,000. The vehicles are new and replacement vehicles. The $1,006,000 is businesses and updated equipment. That all equates out to a grand list increase at the current rate of $242 additional thousand of revenue that's coming in the state. As everybody knows, the state is having its difficulties with its debt as well. We are in what they call the, I believe it's a long session this year for the 2-year budget. So we're hoping that it goes smoothly. Right now, the indications coming out of the Hartford, with all the information that we've been getting, that the funding appears to be remaining fairly level. So those numbers will come in as we go through the budget process. We haven't found anything that is going to be glaring, that is going to show a major shortcoming in going forward. Next up is the general government. It's broken down into a few categories. The operating expenditures proposed $5,723,106 with a change of $581,000, 11% increase. Library administration proposed at $361,000, 3.3 reduction. Capital and transfers is the big item of $1,034,000, a change of $384,000, which is a 59% increase. The debt service, which was on most of the equipment that we bought last year, which is $58,683, and total general budget expenditures going up $8 million, which is going to be $8,304,000, a change of $1,012,000. What I'll do is get down into some of the areas that you're going to highlight a little bit where some of the increases are coming. Salaries are going up by 2% per the contract that has been negotiated. We'll be going into the next negotiation for July 1st of 20. We'll start doing that in January. In the next budget, contract will come up starting fiscal year 20. You'll see an increase in data processing of a $16,000 increase. Part of that is the vision upgrade, which drives the assessor's office for the accounting and putting everything up online and for the accountability. And a long overdue map printer. Anybody that has dealt with inlands, wetlands, conservations, the town clerk, and the assessor, and P&Z. This map is, printer is very critical. We got all the life out of what we could with the last one. We have no choice, it's time to replace. This year for elections and registrations, we're increasing the budget by $12,000. We're going to have a few multiple primaries this year due to the state elections coming up. Town council, $12,300. That is going to be the new negotiations for the union contract. Fire marshal, you're going to see a large increase. Our current fire marshal that has been serving us for the last 15 plus years has retired. He's now our state representative. So we now have a resident fire marshal that is going to be is one of our local firemen. Has been doing this for the past 9 years. Has been highly recommended by the outgoing fire marshal. So we're seeing an increase in that budget. In the past, some of that cost was offset because he did multiple towns, so his needs were a little different in conjunction with where we are today and setting up directly out of the, our town hall. We're going to see we're all in support of our fire and EMS. Fire department's ambulance and paramedic is the drivers in this for the $57,000 increase. Paramedic program, we don't have a choice based on the calls. They come out and it's based on the numbers. The ambulance, there's an increase there. We need the ambulance. We do not have an opportunity to go out and get what we're paying for here with what we're expending. And same thing with the fire departments. The increase that we did put in for them is to help them continue so that way they can concentrate more on fighting the fires and not be out there totally doing fundraising and help protect us in our time of needs. Next page, please.
One at the end there.
Oh, school security. That is new this year. As you did hear with the school, they did put a coordinator in there. The school and the town board of selectmen have been working together to put a program to protect our children as they go to school. It's currently in our budget. That will be up for discussion, as we go through. The estimated cost to do the nighttime from 2:30 to 9:30, part-time people, 6 hours a night with a pool of about 6 people, and some equipment is roughly the $66,000. So this is a new item that we've never had before. It's long overdue, and there's no amount of money that compares when it comes to the safety of our students here at the school. Okay, town garage, you're seeing a significant increase this year, $30,000. It's repairs to the building. Back in 1975, we built the current DPW garage. We've done some very, very minor repairs over the decades, but we've now come to the point that we need to do some sheet metal work on the building because metal rusts as it goes up. That is estimated out at $25,000. That's trim, windows, and sheet metal and roof in order to keep that structure going for many more years to come. One of the other things that's in there is we heat our building with waste oil that we get from our equipment and other sources to save money. We do heat with number 2 fuel. One of the other things that we've been fortunate enough to heat with is our firewood from tree cutting that we bring in to offset. One of the things that the new highway director has been looking at is how to get the most efficiency out of the wood burning when it is going. Looking at the system, we need to put in $5,000 in order to put up some some heat, what they would call a heat pump, to push out the heat that will now reduce costs. So it's a worthwhile investment to get more of it. And if anybody knows with the gypsy moths and everything going on, it's an overabundance of wood that is available. So we might as well tap into that when it comes to the price between heating oil and putting in the registers that we need in order to pump the heat through the building. We did save money this year. We were contracted out in the past budget that we budgeted to share a building official with Woodstock. That did not take place. So we now have a building official that's working part-time for the town 15 hours a week that is doing it, so we do have a substantial savings within that department. The Library Community Center building, you're seeing an increase in the water. If anybody has been following this for the last few years, we've been having an HVAC issue. This past current year, we replaced the HVAC. In order for that to cool properly, it uses more water in the cooling process, so we have an increase there. Fringe benefits is always the driving factor in any of the town budgets for the employees. We're seeing a significant increase there. That's health, insurance, pension, and FICA. Right now proposed, that came out of the Comptroller's office, Kevin Limbo, the ratio is 11 to 2%, and these are round numbers for the contribution rates. Based on the return rate that is going out right now, projected, they have proposed now for the next 5 years, a 2% increase just in the town's contribution. We're working with the Hartford and having some legislation proposed to bring that gap where we meet more in the middle, but that we will see where that goes. But right now, just next year, we're on the hook for an additional 2% increase to meet the obligations to keep the fund solvent. And we are still working on some litigation with the state on the MERS program as well. So there is additional funding in there to cover what that cost may be if and when we do settle that out. Municipal insurance, normal cost of living going up. The debt retirement, or the 58,683, again, is for that fiscal year 19 for the equipment that we bought that we will be paying for the next 5 years going forward. Which brings us now to the capital. This is the biggest driver into the capital expenses. One of the constants that we have that we've been able to save money, and if anybody's been around, we are currently in the process of doing part of our revaluation this year. This is a negotiated contract with NECOG. It's for $30,747. This is a 5-year plan. I can't remember where we are in it, but we're obligated for 5 years to put this money, and it's constant going in. One of the situations up at the highway garage with some of our, again, building maintenance is the current salt shed roof replacement. Asphalt shingles have a life. They only last so long. We need to, if anybody's driven by the highway garage, you'll see some blue tarps on top of the roof right now to keep the water out because it contaminates the salt. It makes it run out of the building and then into the watershed, which is not very good with DEP. So we're estimating that to put a steel roof on there at $10,000. We did combine the road resurfacing this year from chip sealing and paving. The reason we did that is we've come to a point that anybody's been driving out on our roads right now, it is pothole city. We've had another bad winter, freezing, thawing, the water gets into the cracks, the potholes patch. We know that our roads are done. We're to the point now where normal chip sealing is not going to solve our issues. We need to be able to start doing total road reclamation in order to put the base back in and in order to have those roads come for years to come. And then we can go back to the chip sealing because we'll have a good base under it. So we combined that, so instead of showing chip sealing and paving, we put it back into one so that way we can use it. We're back this year looking for 2 one-ton Mason dump trucks. These are the small ones that anybody sees. They're very important to the highway garage for any of the small streets, dead ends, cul-de-sacs. They're also cheaper to operate when we're doing some road maintenance. We currently have 2 trucks. We just replaced the transmission last week. On them, they are extremely tired. We need to replace these in order to keep the fleet and to keep the roads plowed as well. So we put in for 2 complete trucks. The backhoe is back in there again this year. The thinking with this is a little different. There's more of a need for it going forward. Our current backhoe that we use up at the transfer station, the Volvo, is declining very rapidly, and while it's still a tradable piece to put in, we need to get rid of that. And the thought, talking with the DPW director, is to take the existing backhoe that is over 25 years old bring that up to the transfer station. We were talking about rebuilding the backhoe on that. If we bring it up to the transfer station, we can use the bucket. We don't have to worry about the hoe. That will suffice up there for what we need to do, and we turn around and buy another backhoe with a good backhoe on it, so that way we can do our drainage work around town. So we recycle the equipment through, so that's back up. Currently this year, the generator at the town hall did fail. It goes back to the 80s when Mo Beans was the highway director back then. This is a military surplus. It has let go. We do not currently have a working generator in order to keep the services going there. It's also our emergency operations center for the emergency management. We are currently working with USDA. As soon as they get some funding, we put in for a grant to cover, that will cover 55 cents on the dollar, but with anything that's going on, we're waiting on that, and hopefully that'll come through. The community repairs, it's $50,000. We have a 25-year-old building, various heat pumps, furnaces, a variety of things. We're in the process right now of replacing the alarm system that is antiquated right now. The community roof, center on the roof, which is 25 years old, I did go out and got an estimate of how much life we had left into this. The life right now is estimated at another 10 years. The cost of that roof with the inflation going forward 10 years out is estimated at $250,000 if we put the asphalt architect shingles back on. Another 10 years from now, different products. We don't know where it may be, but if the $25,000 there is to start building that fund so that way when the time comes, we're ready to do that roof at that time. The Little League complex, these are a variety of safety issues and some upgrade there. It serves an awful lot of our youth in town. It's also a town-owned property. That is ours. They are the caretakers. They do maintain it. We do aid them in putting, and they requested $68.50 this year. One of the biggest things that is driving this budget here is a new salt shed. We've estimated over 2 years at $200,000 per year, and that'll be up for discussion. Where the DPW garage is right now is in a watershed area. It feeds Connecticut water. It's a low-lying area. The current salt sheds are not adequate. As you can see, we're putting a roof on that. If we turn around, build a new style salt shed, everything stays in. We buy the salt at one time. The trucks get loaded in the building. Any of the contamination, the water stays within. It's what DEP wants. It's what they look for. And if you look over at Route 200 and down, going off the ramp there to head north towards Putnam, you'll see one of those type of salt sheds that they built back many years ago. But that is what we're looking to do up there. Because right now we do test the wells at the highway garage, and the sodium level does go up and down. And eventually, if it stays up, then we're going to be in violation. So we need to start planning to replace that roof, that whole building. The Turtle Lot Trust, $25,000. That's a pass-through that goes in. It's a normal transfer every year in order to keep the current high school and some of the repairs that are done up there in the old high school building. So we have a $1,034,000 in capital requests. Some of them are recurring every year. Some of them, these are our needs. We'll have to try and find a way to accomplish and for the future where we need to go. Okay, getting back to just a little FYI, which I got from the highway director. His vision right now in some of the road resurfacing, some people may agree, some people won't. Brandy Hill Road, if anybody's driven over that in the recent few weeks, it's come apart. West Thompson Road with the traffic up there, same thing. That one is coming apart. There's a small stretch of Messier Road that goes up to the soccer fields. Garin Road goes between Thompson Rod and Gun and what I used to know as Bates Handle, but 193. We need to do a little bit of work on Porter Plain Road. We have a drainage issue up there where the road is too high. We need to lower it. It's about a quarter of a mile that needs to be done. Since we're going to be up there to grind that and reclaim it, Liberty Lane hasn't been touched since that whole development had been put in. And the work that needs to be done at Fabian Road before we can even think of doing any resurfacing of that road. There's much needed drainage work that needs to be done on that, and we need to start on that as soon as possible. So that's part of that $400,000 increase in the paving and the infrastructure there. Just to get you a little update, the drainage on Fabian Road, we had a group of UConn students that had come in as a senior class project, and at no cost, they had turned around and designed and worked to show us the drainage that needed to go in there and give us some guidance with that. One of the things that we do is look for a variety of different ways, and currently right now, using the UConn students, we're looking at the reconstruction of the Buckley Hill Road at both ends, 200, and towards the KFC, because they're high traffic, to see what we can do with that. Blaine Road as well, with Bellman's Mill is, and the Route 193 where the new restaurant is, Anya's. It used to be the railroad trestle there. The airline trail is a prime draw for the town that's bringing people in, is to put a walk bridge over that, and they're in the process of designing that as well. So we are looking for a variety of ways of working and getting the most that we can done with the budget that we're working with. So, next slide is the budget increase in the mill rate. Last year we took $175,000 from the fund balance to balance the budget. After additional appropriations for the oil tank replacement at the school, the current available is $2,150,000. Using the figures proposed in the grand list, 1 mil this year at this time is going to be $610,000. I believe it's gone up about $6,000 overall from 602. And as proposed, the general government budget would go up by 1.6 mils. So these are our needs. We just have to figure out how we can get to where everything, we can put it together. So with that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to entertain any of those. Mr. McGarrett.
Those ladies, it's a complex budget. I compliment you and your board of selectmen. My job you do administering the town's business. But I note in the minutes of your selectmen's meeting that this budget is recommended to the Board of Finance by a divided vote. And that you yourself voted against this budget. May I ask what you don't like about this budget?
When I did make the vote on that, it was the main driving factor was the library, the reduction in that, the history on the library, which we had a discussion with, starting back in 04, 05. The budget actually has gone down in the last 15 years. What we have done in the past, when I was on the board in the past from 2009, 2013, as just a board member, anytime the library budget came up, since it's a bottom line budget, just like the school, that the Board of Selectmen would just pass it through, give it to the Board of Finance to let them deal with it. Yes, sir.
Since this budget is out of your hands now, please allow me to address my remarks to the Board of Finance along the lines of the library funding. As of the most recent census, the population of Putnam exceeded Thompson's by 126 people. In the current fiscal year, Putnam's spending on its library exceeds Thompson's by $82,000.
the record, could you please state your name and address?
You don't know?
Those who may not know me, my name is Francis McGarry. I reside on Chase Road. And in the interest of full disclosure, the man who just asked me to identify myself is my son, Aaron.
This is a public meeting, after all.
Any other questions? Be happy to answer them. And seeing none, thank you all.
Tell Mr. Chairman that we might not have a meeting next week. The three of us will not be there.
I've just been informed that 3 members of the Board of Finance will not be able to attend the budget workshop that's scheduled for next Thursday, 7 p.m. at the Louis P. Fosher Community Center meeting room.
So that would have been the 14th, right?
Right. So if anyone here was planning to attend that meeting, it's not going to happen because it requires 4 members of the Board of Finance to have a quorum. But speaking in broader terms, we will be meeting every Thursday, 7 p.m. at that location for the next 6, 7, maybe 8 weeks as we deliberate and do our work. So if somebody wants to attend one of those budget workshops, they're certainly welcome to attend. That'd be Thursday, 7 p.m. in that meeting room in the Louis P. Fosher Community Center.
So, are we good for now?
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
So this is a public hearing. I don't know if we officially need to take a vote to adjourn, but I'd rather be on the safe side. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So Larry has the motion,
Second.
and Rob has the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, this carries 6-0. Thank you, everyone.